Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to Saving Salvage. Right, in today's video we are doing a how-to on the Cambelt on the Audi S3. Little disclaimer before I start, this is not a definitive guide of how it should be done. This is how I do them, and this is how I've done them for 10 years and mostly at main dealer as well. So just a quick disclaimer there, this is not a definitive, this is how it should be done, this is how I do it. And this is what I'm going to show you. So let's just crack on. Cambelt on the Audi S3. So I've put the covers back on, engine cover back on, I put that hose back on just so we can start from 100%. Obviously the hose clip I haven't done up, there's no point doing that, I've just put the hose on. So first thing we do is remove this screw up here, so we can take this off, like so. Put that down there. You want to undo these two screws as well, so you can take the engine cover off and put that with it. Crying out loud, that's why you wear gloves. I haven't done one of these for a long time, people, so if I'm just staring for a while it's because I'm trying to work out the best way to do it as well. Oh look, actually, look what's come off, look what's broken. That's broken, we'll have to fix that. Right, the first thing I'm going to do is strip the top, just to make sure it all comes out nice and easily. So let me just get some gloves on. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is remove this top hose here. So you undo that hose clip, pull this off. There's a couple of clips that are here and here which I've already put up there. There's just a couple of 30mm nuts. So pull that off, and if I'm honest, you could probably just get away with just tucking it out the way. The rule I do is the least you can take off the better. So if you can just tuck it out the way, do that. Undo some electrical connections. Got that canister. And also your coolant level sensor plugs. Get them up out of the way. So we'll get a Phillips screwdriver to undo the coolant bottle. 2 screws. Two. Sits up as well. Alright, the petrol vac canister, again they can just sit up there out of the way. Alright, fuel lines, they can go out of the way as well. Alright, there's the top timing cover. It's just held on with 2 clips at the top, and there's another clip that's attached to it here. Just a wiring loom that's bolted to it that you need to take off. Don't know what the technical term is. The 16mm spanner fits over perfectly. You want to put your spanner over this, and this just allows you to pull the tensioner forward, which releases the tension on the belt, so you can then take the belt off. Again, is easy said than done, especially when you can't fit your fat hands in there. There we go, that's that. So we do have to take the tensioner off to be able to get the lower timing chain cover on and off. Right, so should have just fallen to the floor pretty much. There's that. And that. Just remember, I would remember what way it goes on. But that's absolutely fine, there's nothing wrong with that. There's just 3 bolts that hold the tensioner on. Should be fairly simple to get to on the bottom. Or just fall out the bottom. That's fine. We'll put that to one side. That's the tensioner off. So, that's most things out the way at the minute. You can see there's our belt exposed. Got a nice gap down there. Taking our auxiliary belt and tensioner off. So what we need to do now is going to jack it up in the air, remove what we can from underneath that we need to, and then we'll put it back on the ground and we'll remove the engine mount. Right, we've got it up in the air. So first thing obviously is to remove the wheel. So that is our crank pulley there. So that is what we need access to. So before iron demo. Right, while we're here as well, we'll remove the lower engine mount. And once you've got all them off, hopefully you can take the whole thing off in one. Now you've got the bottom timing chain cover off, it exposes the cam belt in its entirety. The only thing we have to remove now is the engine mount to get full access to be able to remove the belt. This is where it's a little different. Now we've got it back on the ground, you're supposed to use an engine brace that will sit across here, across the front, and you're supposed to support the engine using the brace up the top here. That is the official way to do a cam belt. I don't know anyone that does it that way because the engine brace gets completely in the way and it takes too long to set up. So I and everyone I know use a trolley jack with a bit of wood under it and just jack the engine up from the bottom. So I've got the jack under there now, I've got it supporting, taking the weight of the engine. So now we can remove our engine mount. We've also already done the bottom one, so it's just the top 2. So to start with, we'll undo the mount that bolts to the chassis. There's also a couple of 13s as well. Like so. This is a lot harder to do when you're filming. I've got about 9 different stands and cables in the way. Right, the last one is a bit more tricky. Right, I think it's out. You need to get the engine in top dead centre. There's a mark here and there's a mark on the camshaft pulley. You have to get these in line to get the engine in top dead centre. And then what I also do is mark the bottom pulley as well, so you know that the top and the bottom pulleys are exactly how you left them when you put the new belt on. Right, I'll show you what I've done in a minute because it was a pain in the arse, but I just can't get that engine mount out, it won't come out, so we've reverted to a different method of just loosening off the tensioner by putting a screw in it. You can't see anything at the minute while I've still got the belt on, so let me just try and get this belt off and I'll show you what I did. Right, so if we see down there, so there's the oil filled tensioner at the bottom. That's got the oil hydraulic strut in it, which pushes on this tensioner. If you can see, it's got an offset bolt hole here, look. It's got an offset bolt hole, so when the hydraulic tensioner pushes against it, it basically pushes it round and tensions the belt. So as you can see here, what I've done is there's actually a screw hole in the hydraulic tensioner, and I've screwed a little bolt in here. There's a bolt here. I can't show you because the camera keeps focusing on everything up top, but there's a bolt there which I've screwed into the hydraulic tensioner, and then I've screwed it down, and that has relieved the other tensioner of the pressure on the belt, and I've then been able to just carefully with a screwdriver just lever the belt off. It's not an ideal way of doing it because it's very fiddly trying to get that bolt in and trying to do the bolt up. My much preferred method is to remove the tensioners, but I just cannot get to that engine mount, and without getting the engine mount out of the way, it's very hard to get to the bolts that hold the hydraulic tension on also. Right, as we're changing the water pump as well, which is just there it is in that gap. I've just moved the engine mount as far away as I can get it. So there's 3 bolts holding the water pump on. This camera's just rubbish, it's not going to focus where I want it to. 3 bolts holding the water pump on. I've already undone those, so all we've got to do now is place a bucket underneath and carefully prise it off, and hopefully it shall catch most of the water. But obviously we're renewing it now. And the seal on the air water pump's pretty much had it, so that wouldn't have been long before that would have been leaking coolant. Look, that's knackered. Right, because obviously I screwed that bolt into the tensioner, I had to remove them together. Like so. So there's a hydraulic tensioner, and there's our other tensioner. Just the design there, look, where you can screw, as you can see there, screw the bolt into the bottom, but it's a horrible design because it's so fiddly to get on. I don't like using it. So what I'm going to do, is, the reason I've removed it, is if you can see that hole there and that hole there, I'm going to twist that round and compress it in my vise, and then put a pin straight through it which holds it in its reset position. So when I put the belt on, all I've got to do to tension it is pull the pin out. So there you go, look, as you can see here, look, in the vise I've compressed the hydraulic rod, and as you can see I've put a small metal piece all the way through it which holds it in its reset position. Right, so we have here our tensioner, hydraulic tensioner in the reset position with our new roller bearing on. We have here our new water pump with a new O-ring. What it's advised to do is just coat this O-ring in a thin layer of coolant just to lube it up a little bit so it slots a little bit nicer back into the block. We've got our new tensioner bearing here. If I just show you down here, it's going to be hard to see because everything is in the way. But it's not going to focus, but there's a crank pulley at the bottom there, look, you can see with the green paint on. It's just moved a little bit to the left, which is, it does that sometimes, but all we do when we get the belt on, just before we get the belt on, just make sure they're bang on, top and bottom, bang on in line. And you can see, if you can see, just not, it just keeps auto focusing, won't. So there's our hole for our cold water pump. Look, you can just see some coolant in there. I'm just going to put everything back together in a reverse order. Reverse order is crucial because there are some things that only go in a particular order. I found that out many times when you put stuff together and realise you've got to take it all back apart again because you forgot to put one part back on. So it's crucial that you do everything in the reverse order that you did it. So first of all, we're going to put the tensioner back on. We have the belt back on. Did it in reverse order, so I put the hydraulic tensioner on first. I then put pulley on as well because I took it off with it. I then put the engine mount back in and sat it up here. I then put the water pump on, and I then put the belt on behind the engine mount, got it all in position so it was all loosely fitted. I then got it all lined up, made sure the crank and the camshaft were still in the right positions using my marks, and I then struggled to get the belt on. They're quite tight, they're really tight in fact. Got the belt on and then pulled the pin on the tensioner, and everything is all lined up. So check my timing marks, they're all good. So the belt's now on, all tensioned, everything's done up. I've just put the engine mount back on as well. So that's all in position. So now we can start rebuilding. What you want to do also, I've just put the engine mount back on so we can get the car in the air, so it's a little bit easier. What you want to do is you want to turn the engine over 2 revolutions just by hand, just to then make sure the tension is all settled in and the belt's all settled, and then just make sure that it still all lines up. Right, so I've done 2 revolutions. I'm not going to bother showing you the marks because you can't see them in the camera. But crank's bang in position, camshaft's bang in position, they all still line up perfectly after 2 rotations, so that's all good now. So now we can resume rebuilding. Right, so everything's back together at the top here. Everything's back in, all done up nicely. So it is the moment of truth. Let's start her up. So that's all it, back together. Obviously I didn't run it for too long because I haven't put any coolant in it yet, but that is the how-to on the Cambelt. That was my phone ringing because I'm late. So that is the Cambelt all done, ran up. Just need to obviously finish off with the hose cleed, the coolant, and she's all done. Right, so as I was saying guys, I'm very late, I have to go, so sorry it was a little bit rushed at the end there. So that's my how-to on doing the Cambelt on the S3 BAM engine. So that's it for today's video guys. Thank you very much for watching, and if you do like these videos, please do like and subscribe. Helps massively the channel, and I shall see you in the next video where I'll be revealing my new project car. So see you in the next one. Cheers guys.